Good day to viewers, the Colonel speaking to you live from the Grange, British Imperial YouTube Broadcasting. Today we've got something very unusual. I've got this album set of the, well, it's a broadcast recording. It's 60 RPM of the wedding of Her Royal Highness Princess Marina of Greece to His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent in Westminster Abbey, Thursday, November the 29th, 1934. 9 records, 60 RPM, made by the BBC from their broadcast service, and introductions and what have you, in a special album, presumably to be sent out to various foreign and imperial radio stations, who knows. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to play it 60 RPM, as I say. I've just managed to get the turntable to play that, and I'm playing it with a fibre needle. So here we go. You can listen to it as it was heard in 1934.
This is London. The following was published in the London Gazette of the 5th of October. At the court of Buckingham Palace, His Majesty was this day pleased to declare his consent to a contract of matrimony between his most dearly beloved son, His Royal Highness Prince George Edward Alexander Edmund, Knight of the Garter, Knight Grand Cross of St. Michael and St. George, Knight Grand Commander of the Victorian Order, and Her Royal Highness Princess Marina, daughter of His Royal Highness Prince Nicholas of Greece, and of Her Royal and Imperial Highness Princess Nicholas, which consent His Majesty has caused to be signified under the Great Seal and be entered in the books of the Privy Council. Today, the 29th of November, the Duke of Kent and Princess Marina are to be married in Westminster Abbey. The ceremony is due to begin at 11 o'clock and is to be broadcast in the British Isles and throughout the Empire. Spectator on the roof of Westminster Hospital, looking down on Broad Sanctuary, has an uninterrupted view of the west door of the Abbey. And from this point, Mr. Howard Marshall, therefore, is in an ideal position to describe to you everything that he sees up to the time that the service begins. After the ceremony is over, Mr. Howard Marshall will tell you how the scene appears as the bride and bridegroom leave the Abbey. Mr. Howard Marshall.
Well, there's nothing actually happening yet, though I expect you can hear the bells, and I dare say you can hear the hum of the excited crowd. And we're just waiting for the first of the royal procession. And while we wait, let me try to set the scene for you. To begin with, the weather. There's no sunshine yet, but it's a typical London November day. It's grey, there's just that wintry haze which turns distant buildings into shadows. And the street lamps are alight, little golden moons in the haze. I'm glad, I must say, that we have got a day like this, a London day, for a pageant which only London could produce. Now the scene. On my right, I can see the west door of the Abbey, where the bride and bridegroom will enter, and stretching away is the Abbey itself, its weathered stones rising with such dignity in buttresses and carved pinnacles. And then nestling below the Abbey, looking strangely small from here, is the little church of St. Margaret. And beyond, over the plane trees, I can see the grey towers of the Houses of Parliament, the Big Ben standing up there, his head sticking out of a collar of scaffolding. He's just been repainted, and his familiar face is clean and shiny. And all enclosed by these buildings is the broad space of Parliament Square. And the royal procession will come through the square, down the road under my box here, up to the west door. And everything, of course, is gay with flags and bunting, Union Jack, the blue and white bars of Greece, the white cross of Denmark. And the flags are hanging in festoons, great streamers of them, going from tall masts which the council have put up all along the front. It's a wonderfully vivid scene down below. The crowds are lined along the roadway, the stands along the Abbey front and in the square, full of people. The guards in their grey coats and busbies with bayonet sticks are lining the route. Every window is crowded, every crack and cranny in every building seems to be occupied. And now, down below me, I can see the outriders coming, who are the heralds, of course, of the approach of the royal procession. Outrider in his scarlet coat and his top hat and his gold braid round it, and a pair of the light guards who are the escort to this end right away in the distance, just beyond Parliament Square, coming out of Whitehall there. I can see the gleaming silver and the helmets and the flying plumes of the escort of horse guards who are preceding the royal procession. Now here comes a solitary officer leading the main body of the escort, who I can just see them now between the bare branches of the plane trees, shining, glittering there, coming along on their horses. Soon I expect you'll hear the actual sound of the horses' hoofs. The crowd, of course, is beginning to get excited, fading, looking round, watching everything that's happening. Many of these people who are lining the route here have been here, I understand, all night in order to make certain of their places. It's a great crowd. Now here come the lifeguards with their breastplates shining, and as they pass, the guards who are lining the route present arms. A wonderful sight. This extraordinary efficiency of this little thin grey line of guardsmen. Now I expect you can hear the ring of the horses' hoofs on the sanded roadway. I'll just pause for a moment so that you can hear. And now here actually comes the first royal coach, the first carriage in which are the King and the Queen and Prince Valdemar of Denmark, who is the great-uncle of both the Duke of Kent and Princess Marina. Now I expect you can hear the cheering, everybody waving their handkerchiefs, clapping, cheering, and this glass coach it is, with its gold and red cappings, its coachmen in their gold and their black peaked hats, its noble horses trotting along. Now, can you hear the cheers? I expect it's there. Now, the second carriage is just approaching, containing the King of Norway, the Queen of Norway, and the King of Denmark and the Queen of Denmark. And you can hear down below me the crowd on the roadway and in the stand cheering vociferously. The Westminster boys taking off their hats. Now I'm looking round to the right, round to the west door of the Abbey, where the royal coach has just drawn up. The gold and scarlet footman has leapt to the door, and in one moment we shall see the King and Queen get out. Yes, here they come. Here His Majesty the King has just got out the church, and we're just waiting for Her Majesty the Queen at the west door of the Abbey, and they're just walking forward now slowly into the Queen in blue, into the Abbey and under the awning.
Well, there we go, viewers. Typical private eye moment there, wasn't it, when he said, well, there's nothing much happening at the moment. And then, of course, being BBC, they had to abide by the law of England, instituted by King John in 1212, where any broadcast mentioning the royal family must mention the word pageantry. and said in that manner. Thank you, viewers, and bye.